Have you ever found yourself just wrestling with some really tangled, tightly coupled code? If so, this explainer is definitely for you. Today, we're going to unpack the command pattern. It's a super powerful technique that takes a simple request and turns it into its own flexible object. We're going to see how this one little change can totally revolutionize your application's architecture. I mean, we've all been there, right? Wishing our code just had a built-in undo button. You start building what seems like a simple feature. Maybe you're queuing up some actions or letting users reverse a mistake, and then suddenly you're just lost in this web of dependencies. But what if I told you there's an elegant pattern designed to solve this exact problem? So, before we get to that elegant solution, let's take a good hard look at the headache it's meant to solve. We'll start with a classic example, a super simple text editor. Seems straightforward, I know, but it is the perfect way to show just how fast things can get coupled and really, really complex. Okay, so in a typical first go, the client, which is our main program here, it just calls the text editor directly. It knows everything about the editor's methods, and it's responsible for every single little action. I mean, it works, sure, but this direct connection, this tight coupling, is exactly where all our problems start to brew. Yeah, this direct link, it just creates a mess. Our client and our editor are basically chained together. What happens when you want to add a new paste function? Well, you have to go in and change the client. The whole system just becomes this tangled web that's impossible to scale. And you know the worst part? The actions themselves, they aren't distinct things we can manage, which makes trying to implement a simple undo an absolute nightmare. So how do we untangle all this? Well, this is where the command pattern makes its grand entrance. It is specifically designed to solve every single one of these problems by introducing a powerful layer of abstraction. Let's break down how it works. You know, the core idea is actually really simple, but it is profound. We stop thinking about requests as just simple method calls. Instead, we encapsulate an entire request, the action, who it's for, the parameters, all of it, into its own standalone object. And trust me, this one shift in perspective, it changes everything. To see how this all clicks together, let's meet the key players. First up, we have the receiver. Now, this is the object that actually does the work. So in our text editor example, the text editor itself is our receiver. It's got all the nitty-gritty logic for writing text or deleting it. Next up is the real star of the show, the command object. Think of it like a neat little package. It holds onto the receiver, our text editor, and it knows exactly which method to call on it, plus any data it needs. A write command, for example, packages up the text we want to write and the instruction to write. And finally, we have the invoker. This is our crucial middleman. See, the client no longer talks to the editor directly. Nope. Instead, it just hands a command package to the invoker and says, hey, run this. The invoker doesn't care what the command does, only that it can be executed. And that right there is the secret sauce to that beautiful decoupling we're after. All right, so we've met the team. Now for the really exciting part. Let's see how these players completely transform our original tangled up code. And here it is, the after picture. The difference is just night and day. On the left, you've got that tangled mess. On the right, a beautifully clean separation of concerns. The client simply hands commands over to the invoker. And hey, look at that last line. What used to be a specific, messy undo call is now a simple, universal undo. That is the power of this abstraction right there. So, under the hood, this is all powered by a common contract, an interface. All of our command objects, they agree to have an execute method and an unexecute method. The invoker's job is to simply keep a history of these commands. So to undo, it just grabs the last command from its stack and tells it to unexecute itself. It's really that simple. So we've added a few new pieces to our architecture. You might be asking, what was it all for? Well, let's look at the big payoff and recap all the awesome benefits we just got. Every single one of our initial headaches is just gone. That tight coupling? Solved, thanks to the invoker. Worried about scalability? Now we can add new features just by creating new command classes without ever touching the client code. And that undo nightmare? It's now trivial because the invoker keeps a clean, simple history of every single action. Now, you might be thinking, hey, couldn't I just use the strategy or observer pattern for this? And that's a great question, but they solve different problems. See, strategy is all about swapping out entire algorithms. Observer is for broadcasting state changes. Only the command pattern is specifically designed to package a single operation into an object, which makes things like undo and redo a completely natural fit. So, when should you reach for this powerful tool? It's not for every single situation, but let me tell you, in the right context, it is an absolute lifesaver. So here's a practical little checklist to help you decide. Just ask yourself these 4 simple questions. First, do you need to treat your requests as objects? Second, is undo/redo a critical feature for you? Third, do you need to queue up operations or maybe run them later on? And finally, do you really need to decouple the thing that sends the request from the thing that actually does the work? If you find yourself saying yes to any of these, then the command pattern is probably an excellent choice for your project. So, I'll leave you with a little challenge. Go look at your own code. Think about those complex UI interactions or that multi-step business logic you've been working on. Where is there a request right now that is just waiting to be transformed into its own powerful, flexible command object?